This is Joy Hancox from the Byrom projects, giving you a little bit more of the story that has been covered in videos 1 to 4. And now I must use another person that I've used before several times and use him as a link towards the next section. And that is the Reverend Neville Barker Cryer. Now, here he is appearing again. And what I want to draw your attention to, if I may, is that he was the person, as a reminder, that introduced me to a sketch of the book and the allegory that we're talking about. And now I have to say that I have to introduce him within the context of the Masonic Freemasons' own research program. The volume that we're talking about is entitled The Ars Quata Coronati, which is a volume that's produced regularly, and it's the Quata Coronati is the premier lodge of Masonic research, I suppose, is for the world really, because Neville, I'm calling him Neville now, he wrote an article for the volume that was published and printed in 1992. And he wrote an article about the Byrom collection, my first book, in that volume. And I have to say, I'm not going to quote what he actually said in the article, except to read to you the last sentence at the end of that article. And he actually says, and I'm reading it, here at least is a source of new thinking and evidence that we shall ignore to our loss. That is what he said at the time about my research. So, and he wouldn't have put that unless he thought it was worthy of inclusion. Now, Neville, as I'm calling him at the moment, he also had said to me several times that my duty as a research worker, and I was working full-time at it then, was that it was my duty to report my findings, and it was up to other people and other researchers and other authors how they interpreted it. Now, at the time, I was also regarded myself as an educationist, and I did not necessarily agree with him at that time, because there were aspects of my research that I didn't think were suitable for display or reporting at that time. But I came to learn that the Reverend Neville Barker Cryer was also a member of a specific unit and a lodge that I was not aware of in all the times that he was coming to see me. And that was a lodge referred to as the Secret Monitor. I never knew that he was a member of that necessarily. I didn't need to know, but when I looked that up, it was in association, it was associated rather remotely with the Priory of Zion, and that was a very secretive unit that I had learned quite a lot about. And so the Neville Barker Cryer was a very important cog in the whole of my avenue of progress with my research. And I have to say that, he was instrumental in introducing me to the landscape of lies, because he'd sent me those pages years before. Because he had said what he'd said and written about me in the Quattro Coronati, I have now decided that my research must take on a look at the future. It had always been really basically based on past history through the centuries, via the paperwork that had come to me over the years. And I've already said in my first video about the first crop circle that I linked with the number 9, which was an important figure that had been demonstrated throughout my research, and I'd introduced it into the first video because the 9th of April 1626 was the date when Francis Bacon orchestrated his disappearance. And so in introducing the first crop circle into the first video, I've now got to reshape in kind the direction that my research took me, having analysed the second allegory in the way that I have. And I'm going to do it by introducing 2 crop circles that have appeared in 2024. But before I do that, I would like to link it all very, very carefully with the allegory that we've been talking about. Because in linking it to that, I must also link it to the first visit that I had from the carpenter, the American consultant that has been so important in the latter part of my research. Why was he called the carpenter? It was a name given to him as a young child by his family, who were very much connected with this sort of work, the building trade, at that time when he was a child. So that is the name that he wished to be referred to in any of my work, that I referred to him as a necessary component. So that is it, and so the carpenter it is. When he first came to see me here, I showed him the second allegory, and he didn't know anything to do with the background of it, and I hadn't discussed it with him at all. But when he looked at it in the for the very first time, he pointed to the figure of Jessie and he said, "That's me." And when I saw that, I thought, goodness me, who is this man? Why should you be saying that to me at this particular point, having known nothing about what I had been studying and what I'd been talking to you about at that time? Little did I think of what that might be saying at that time. I treated it half jocularly, I have to say. Now, I'm going to turn now to the reason why I've introduced the Neville Barker Choir into this story again, and I'm going to begin by introducing the first crop circle that appeared in 2024. I have to say that by this time, Neville Margaret Cryer had died. He died in 2013, just before my interview with Bruce Burgess, but which I've talked about earlier. But here he is, becoming quite a named person at this stage in my research. Because I have to say it was his influence really that made me start thinking in a wider spectrum about my interpretation of my researches as it was evolving over the years. Now, and then I have to refer to the carpenter, because he was privy to the crop circle syndrome as described in an earlier one as well. Now, we had agreed, and he had agreed, to telephone me and keep in touch with me on his return to America, which is what he did. Not regularly, but from time to time. And earlier this year, he, in 2024, he did phone me on one occasion, and he said, have there been any crop circles appearing in this season? And I said, no, as a matter of fact, there have not. I used to check the Stonehenge Dronescapes YouTube videos every single day, and there had been nothing that had appeared up until it was June when he was ringing me. Now, he said, well, when the first one appears, will you let me know? So that was fair enough. I thought, well, he wants to know, so I will tell him. So actually, on the 12th of June, shortly after this phone call, the first crop circle appeared. And it was, I think I've just said it, it was on the 12th of June. And it was called the Windmill crop circle, and it was in Wiltshire. And it had appeared overnight on the 12th of June. And when I saw it, of course, I let Carpenter know, but the actual extraordinary thing about the site of this crop circle, it was within a very short distance of the mansion which is called Wilton House, which was the resident of the 3rd Earl of Pembroke at the time of the first video. I could not scarcely believe it, because here was a crop circle appearing near the site of the mansions of the owners of the Pembroke estates. Now, given that the 3rd Earl of Pembroke was the dedicatee of the first folio of Shakespeare that I talked about in the first video very carefully, he was the dedicatee, I thought that this was no accident that at this time the first crop circle this season appeared on that site. It was almost like a bookend to me, because I'd mentioned it so carefully in the first video, the involvement of the 3rd Earl of Pembroke. And of course, we know that he died celebrating his 50th birthday at Fisher's Folly around the 9th of April. Here the family are appearing for me in my research program. Now, I don't think the viewer may think what they like, but to me, it was no accident that this crop circle appeared on that site around that time. And I have to say that the carpenter had telephoned me to ask me to let him know when it first appeared. Now, I have to say that in many ways I did not think that this was a coincidence. I didn't know what to make of it at the time, but when I think about these things, it seems as though there's a rhythm in the disclosure of certain information that is coming to me at this time. Now, blow me, and I'm using that word, blow me, if a week later another crop circle appeared close by, very close to Stonehenge itself. And this was situated near a barrow complex, and it was called Winterbourne. The site of it was on near the barrows in Winterbourne in Wiltshire again. And very close by is the Normanton Down barrows, and they are housing, if you like, the skeletons or burials of certain very distinguished people of their period. Now, in the Normanton barrows, there's a group of barrows, and one of them is called the Bush barrow, and that Bush barrow contains the skeletons of what was considered, it wasn't anything to do with my research, it had been conducted years ago, but the scientists and scholars who discussed all that, and it's there in print, decided that in the Bush barrow sequence, they were very, very elegant people in their own time, and they were thought to be surrounded by a very, very large skeleton that they thought maybe they were familiar with the geometry of the construction of Stonehenge. Not only the geometry, but the astrological interpretation of that particular study that they conducted. And this particular skeleton, which was surrounded by other distinguished skeletons and burials, contained a very, very tall man, and he had within his, surrounding his skeleton, memorabilia which was very significant, but on his chest was lying a particular plate of gold, and they say it's gold. It may have been brass. I'm not absolutely certain of that. But this particular plate had on which was lying on his chest. When I saw it, I could not believe it, because it had the construction 369, a square of 369, constructed in a square or similar proportion of his on his chest, 369. And it reminded me absolutely exclusively on the 9 windows that the carpenter had sent me, particularly as a gift from America. And not only that, but it also was set out in such a way, 369, as the pillow on which the first video in the nativity scene, the Virgin Queen was resting her head on a pillow with 369 set out in the same way. Now, what is this saying? What is this saying? Because it's suggesting that the numerology of 369, the scientists themselves attributed it to knowledge, which they related to numerology, sacred geometry, and astrology, and it was linked to the actual construction of Stonehenge. It has been suggested that the people buried within that mound of bush barrow they were of noble blood and very, very intelligent and distinguished. Now, I have to say that once I had looked at that and studied it and reflected on these two crop circles which had appeared within a week, both of them had appeared within a week of 2024, I could not say that I did not think that there was something, if you like, going on from above. And I was thinking that it's not just my imagination. There may be a bit of my imagination, I have to admit, but at the same time, it seemed to me that there was a sense of direction and intelligence about the program that I was developing. Now, I am sharing that with you because today, in the way that things are developing, let's face it, the whole world is changing rapidly, and there are whistleblowers appearing all over the place suggesting that even that alien races exist and also aliens exist and are about and in amongst us already. Now, this is a fast moving world. Now, I then have to reflect and remind people and viewers of what Neville Barker Cryer said to me. He said, your duty is to report what your researchers have come to and relate to. And I am doing just that. I am developing my research into a broader spectrum and taking in what all the whistleblowers are saying, including people like Elon Musk, who's a very, very special person in his own right, in that I'm using the word special. He's very, very strongly linked with the researches going on in America, and is very much a part of the forthcoming President Trump's program. And so I am having to say this to you now because little did I know when I started on my journey that I would be talking to you like this, in this way. And so I think there's enough to think about at the present time, and I will be going on with this research, and I will be taking it further, and who knows where it's going to lead. And I thank you for watching, and think of it what you will. In introducing what I have called the 9 windows so far, it really was called Cosmic Mandala, and at the top is a brass plate which is called the Ascension of Man. Now, symbolically then, that this is representative of Hermeticism and the laws of nature. And of course, in the crop circle image that we are going to show you as well, you have the 9 windows as a geometric shape on the gold plate on the breast of the skeleton, which was discovered in the barrow all those years ago, in the bush barrow. And then if we look at the first video that I did, the Easter story, the pillow on which the Virgin Queen would have laid her head, that is also represented in the 369 of the 9 windows, or the Cosmic Mandala, and the image that appeared in a geometric form on the skeleton of the bush barrow. So to me there's a symbolic link somewhere spiritually in all of this, which must mean that well, as above, so below.